To make this reward gauge, we need to start with something simple. And what's more simple than the laughing cow? This is the best way to explain I came up with, so I hope you like it. Anyway, so I started with a simple triangle, and after I put multiple triangles together, ta-da! I created the gauge. I decided to make it fully customizable, so that I can change the angles, multipliers, and the resolution of the triangle. After understanding the process, I jumped right in creating the triangle class. The triangle needs to return two things: an array of vertices and an array of triangles. Say we have three vertices, so index 0, 1, and 2. Our triangles array will look like this: 0, 1, and 2. Pretty simple, huh? To increase the resolution of the triangle, I simply use a bit of trigonometry and it was it. So I made a class to test it, hit play, and nothing. I set the angle of the triangle to 0. Yeah, it does happen. So I changed that, tested again, and finally got something. Almost there. It should be 180 degrees, so close enough. The problem came from my angle step used for placing the vertices, so I fixed it again, and it finally worked. I tested multiple resolutions, exiting and entering the play mode each time. It was annoying. I added the Noti attributes package from the asset store to test way faster. Now I can regenerate my mesh every time I change a variable. Okay, so I managed to make one triangle, but I need multiple cheese triangles, remember? So I created a class to hold the data of each triangle. It contains the start angle, the angle of the triangle, its color, and its multiplier. Okay, making the mesh with one triangle data was easy. Now we have a bunch of data. So I looped through all of it, created a triangle of each one of these, added the triangle's vertices to the global vertices, and for the triangles it was a bit more complex. I needed to keep track of the current triangle index, add that index to all the indices I wanted to add, and finally add them to the global triangles list. I configured the cheese triangles and it was working really well. Okay, onto the... I added the multipliers, and to place them automatically, I needed the center of the triangle. I basically just added the corner points of the triangle and divided by 3. It was a nice solution until I changed it later on. Okay, a cool trick I used is change the size of the text depending on the size of the triangle too. Responsiveness is key here. Colors. To color the cheesy triangles, I decided to use the vertex colors. To use them, you simply need to use a vertex shader. It's one node in shader graph. After applying it, the colors seemed a bit off, and I honestly did not know why. Even when using the eyedropper, it was clear that something was wrong. I switched the color space to gamma, and the colors were finally popping out. So I made a bit of research on that and found out that some platforms only support the gamma color space. By precaution, I still wanted to use the linear color space, because it's the default one. I stumbled upon a post in the Unity forum that says that you can convert your color from linear to gamma. So I checked if there was a node for that in the shader graph, and it was the case. So one use of the color space conversion node and the colors were bright again. After that, I quickly grabbed a nicer font. Quick tip here: from time to time, try and improve the graphics of anything you're working on. It will be so much easier and enjoyable. One drawback of the method I use till now is that you need to specify the start angle and the angle of each triangle. That's quite archaic. So I decided to make the switch and opted for a more straightforward way. Now you only need to specify how much of the total angle the triangle should be. As you can see here, it's much more efficient and fast to set up. The needle. At that point, I needed to add a needle that would rotate to select a multiplier. So I checked if I already had a sprite for that, but yeah, nothing really interesting. So I added an arrow I had laying around instead. I then checked my YouTube analytics. 8 views in an hour, nice! Okay, let's get back to work now. Genius time. Okay, so the needle needs to rotate from one side of the gauge to the other, always at the same speed. So I could have used an animation for that, but yeah, the goal here is to make the system versatile. So I needed to make a custom function. So I opened a graphic calculator and started playing around with numbers. The function needs to go up and down over time. It's a repeating pattern. So I first thought about using a linear function, its opposite, and take the maximum of these two, but I didn't know how to repeat that function, so I dropped it. I used the modulo operation instead, which takes the rest of the division of two numbers. If you take the modulo of x by 2, we get this nice sawtooth kind of wave. That's a good start. I created another function for the opposite version of that wave, took the maximum of that new function, and it was it. I just had to offset it a bit, adapt the parameters, apply it to the needle, and I had myself a pendulum-like needle. Okay, cool. I added a button to help me stop the needle and came one of my worst enemies. Angles in Unity. Okay, I freaking don't know why, but I can never get angles, rotations, and quaternions right. This was a compulsory step, as I needed to convert the angle into a multiplier to reward the player. So I kept trying and trying and trying and trying and trying until I finally got it to work. After this huge coding session, I needed to chill, so I worked a bit more on the graphics, and oh boy was it relaxing. I like this new needle design. What about you? It's a diamond shape, red, a bit like the subscribe button that you can click on if you like the video. Thanks. After setting up the graphics, I added some placeholder continue and video buttons, used an old scrolling shader I had in my code attic, and polished the whole visuals. Then came my wife. The colors are not pretty, you should change this and that. And she was right. Which version do you prefer, mine or hers? For a bit more polish, the current multiplier is highlighted and the scale of the text is also increased a bit. I thought it was a good addition. Okay, wrapping up the whole thing with a demo scene just to test things out, and seems like it's pretty solid. It was a bumpy ride, but overall I'm really happy with the result. If you think this could be a nice addition to your mobile game, you can grab the package from my website. See you in the next one.